RPN Radio Philippines Network DXKS DXKS Jess 80 ang inyong Radio Ronda 5,000 watts nagsimbiya sa ikatulong andana sa UFCO Lim Building, Borromeo Street, Dakbayan sa Surigao. RPN Radio Philippines Network DXKS Jess 80 ang inyong Radio Ronda.
Bago pa lang mag-lockdown, pumunta na ako ng Lipa, Batangas. Nag-set up na ako ng kitchen doon. It was a lockdown kitchen.
Itong pantry na to, venue siya sa pagtulong. Tayo-tayo po muna yung magtulungan.
What inspired me to keep going is knowing that people need you. And if you have the capacity to help, then you should do it.
Pandemic ngayon. O kahit hindi pandemic, kahit sino ka man, ang sarap makatanggap ng tulong. Everybody needs help, regardless of where or who you are.
Sobrang perfect time po ito para mag-unite tayo lahat.
I'm Theo Ontiveros. Welcome to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Tonight on the program, parents and guardians now have the final say whether or not they will allow their children to get a COVID-19 shot as the government rolls out the vaccination drive for kids aged 5 to 11. On the eve of the campaign kickoff, some presidential aspirants return to their hometowns to prepare for their proclamation rallies. And the schedule of games are out. Find out which of your favorite PBA teams will face off when the Governor's Cup resumes later this week. It's the turn of children as young as 5 years old to get vaccinated against COVID-19. At least 3 hospitals and 3 more vaccination sites kicked off their inoculation. Karen Bonkin also tells us the health department removed a legally contested policy on parental consent to a child's COVID-19 vaccination.
Unlike with their older counterparts, there's more fanfare for the vaccination of 5 to 11-year-olds. In San Juan City, the inoculation site was set up like a children's party. At the SM North EDSA, the atmosphere was also festive. At the Philippine Heart Center, Philippine Children's Medical Center, and National Children's Hospital, there were loot bags filled with toys, learning materials, and snacks. At the Manila Zoo, kids got to see the animals after vaccination. These were just some of the come-ons to entice more kids to get vaccinated, as officials estimate 8% of the population remain vaccine hesitant.
By protecting the 5 to 11, we protect the 4 years old and below. This will now usher in the normalcy that we all have been aspiring for.
Gusto lang namin siya mabakunahan, so kahit may walang goodie bag, okay lang. Pero baka for the kid, dahil medyo natakot sila, naiyak, okay na rin na may maun siyang something, souvenir, regalo, na may books and all.
Among those who showed up were Edgar Morales and his 2 sons.
We think it's safe. Kami, active kami, lumalabas kami, so every time na mag-uwi kami sa bahay, at least even them, they are safe.
Children in this age group will receive a lower dose of Pfizer vaccine. But if an 11-year-old turns 12 for the scheduled second dose, then the child will get a regular vaccine dose for 12 years and older. Pre-registration is needed. The pediatric vaccination pushed through despite a petition filed before a Quezon City court to stop the inoculation. The health secretary defending the vaccination says there's probably just a misunderstanding regarding a department memorandum. On Friday, the DOH rescinded its order, which would have allowed the state to give consent to vaccinate if a child's parent or guardian refuses.
Inatasan ko na ang DOH last week na tanggalin yan. Una-una, ang parental consent, hindi mo pwedeng i-replace. Okay? I-replace mo under extraordinary circumstances kung wala yung magulang, wala yung guardian, yung designated authorized guardian, then only then can the state represent the interest of the child. Pero under normal circumstances, hindi pwede. Ang mananaig po ang consent, parental consent. So malinaw po yan, So, hindi po pwedeng Estado ang magbibigay ng pahintulot kung pwede bang bakunahan o hindi ang mga bata edad 5 to 11.
Positive pa rin yung makikita namin, though this is a temporary, some sort of nuisance.
Officials reiterate the vaccines are safe and less risky than catching the virus.
Wala pong nakikitang ang pamahalaan na fatal consequence. Sa trial of this vaccine conducted among children aged 5 to 11, ito pong Pfizer vaccine, it was found to be safe and efficacious and prevented 90.9% of symptomatic COVID-19.
They add, a child will only be vaccinated if the parent or guardian agrees. Caroline Bongkin, CNN Philippines.
Presidential advisor for COVID-19 response, Vince Dizon, also tells CNN Philippines parental consent for a kid's COVID-19 vaccination is, quote, an absolute requirement.
Absolute requirement. No child can be vaccinated without parental consent. So I will repeat, it is an absolute requirement for vaccination for children. And we are ready and we will be answering the petition that was filed in the Quezon City Regional Trial Court. But we are very, very confident that the courts will allow the vaccinations to continue, simply because, we need it. We need it, and we need the vaccines to protect our kids.
Vince Dizon also saying it is not yet time to make booster cards mandatory in establishments. Presidential advisor for entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion earlier made the pitch, saying it would help build a wall of immunity against the coronavirus. Now, Dizon explains only around 8 million Filipinos have received the third dose of protection against COVID-19 or the booster shots, which to him is a very low number.
I encourage the private sector, Secretary Concepcion, to help us in this, is to push further our people getting the booster shot. Now, especially in the private sector, if they can push their employees, the workers to get the booster shot, that would allow us to further increase these numbers in the coming weeks. But right now, I don't think that is possible to do at this point. To require booster shots for, to enter malls or restaurants, I think that was the proposal. I think that it's very premature to do that right now.
Nearly 16 million Filipinos have completed their primary doses so far. Dizon says they seek to reach 70 million by March, especially with the third round of the National Vaccine Days happening this February 10 and 11, Thursday and Friday. The Department of Health records 6,836 new COVID-19 cases. Experts project a significant drop in the country's COVID-19 cases by the end of the month. The Octa Research Group says new daily infections could fall to around 1,000 to 2,000 in 3 weeks. That's a lower estimate compared to its earlier prediction of 5,000 by late February. Octa also noted that the average number of new cases from February 1 to 5 was over 8,400, down from the 17,000 logged the week before. The group also reporting a lower reproduction rate, or the average number of people infected by a single case, and a decrease in the 7-day positivity rate, or the percentage of infected people out of those tested for COVID-19. Now, news overseas, a state of emergency has been declared in Ottawa, Canada, as thousands of people continue to troop to the streets to protest against COVID-19 restrictions. Mayor Jim Watson says this is because of the serious danger and threat to the safety of residents. Canadian police have issued hundreds of tickets to protesters, including for the use of fireworks, driving on sidewalks, and stunt driving. Demonstrators have been protesting vaccine and mask mandates in the nation's capital for 2 weeks. Australia will reopen to fully inoculated international travelers starting February 21st. Prime Minister Scott Morrison says these tourists should be double vaccinated unless they qualify for a medical exemption. Australia closed its borders to most travelers since COVID-19 spread in early 2020. Only citizens, permanent residents with their families, international students, backpackers, and migrant workers are allowed entry into the country, but they must be double vaccinated. In other news, the United States and its allies keeping a close watch over Russia amid the standoff on Ukraine's borders. U.S. President Joe Biden is sending at least 3,000 troops to Poland, Germany, and Romania to help defend its European allies. Russia has repeatedly denied it is planning to invade its neighbor, but new satellite images appear to show an advance of Russian military deployments in Belarus, which shares a border with Ukraine. Biden declined to say whether he would consider deploying more U.S. troops to NATO allies if Russia refuses to de-escalate tensions with Ukraine. The official campaign period for national posts in the 2022 elections kicks off tomorrow. Tristan Nadalo tells us what the guidelines for in-person campaigning are amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
Stiff penalties await those who will violate the COMELEC rules as the official campaign period begins. Authorities say that a no physical contact policy aims to protect both the public and the candidates amid the pandemic. In-campaign activities will be allowed in areas under alert level 1 to 3. The number of a candidate support staff will also depend on the existing alert level. The poll body also allows the conduct of caucuses, meetings, rallies, and meeting de avance in areas under alert levels 1 to 4. Alert level 1 will be allowed 70%, while alert level 4 will only be allowed 30% maximum capacity. The said activities are prohibited in areas under alert level 5. Based on the guidelines, house-to-house campaigns are not allowed. Crowding that violates minimum public health standards is also prohibited. Handshakes, hugs, kisses, going arm in arm, or any action that involves physical contact between the candidates and the public are likewise not allowed. Taking selfies, photographs, and other similar activities that require close proximity between the candidate and their companions and the public will also be prohibited. Distributing food and drinks will also not be allowed. The Interior Department and the Philippine National Police are beefing up measures to ensure compliance with the COMELEC guidelines.
Medyo mahirap talaga, no? Ito nga isa sa mga pinag-uusapan namin kasi ang sabi nga mismo ni Secretary Ed Anyo, mas mahigpit pa itong COMELEC resolutions kumpara dun sa regulasyon ng IATF, no? But nonetheless, we will do our best unless luluwagan ito ng COMELEC. I understand may mga petitions na to the Commission on Elections na luwagan ng konti depending on the situation on the ground, pero hindi kami aasa doon.
So pag coordinated, we always have a standard security package based on the need to make sure that they are secure during their mga campaigns, and then if there are other requirements, we'll make sure that we are following the instructions or the COMELEC resolution.
The DILG adds that violating the COMELEC rules is tantamount to an election offense, which means that violators may face fines, penalties, imprisonment, or disqualification. Tristan Nadalo, CNN Philippines.
Straight ahead on Newsnight, a day before the campaign season begins, presidential hopefuls are all hands on deck to woo Filipino voters. And amid sex trafficking charges, controversial pastor Apollo Quiboloy claims he's being persecuted as the, quote, appointed son of God. Details when we return.
conquering the universe was the ultimate. But there's more. Dahil tinawag ko ako ng Panginoon for a major purpose. To guide the youth, help communities, and to bring others closer to Him. Kaya I take care of my health through proper diet, exercise, and MX3 capsule. I am ready to serve. Kasi para sa Panginoon, hindi lang ako 4th runner-up. First place ako sa puso niya.
Mahalagang paalala, ang MX3 capsule ay hindi gamot at hindi dapat gamitin panggamot sa anumang uri ng sakit.
Sure ka ba talaga dito?
Ano ka ba? Mabait si Papa. Pa! Si Pinky po.
Paano po, Mr. Fardo?
Please, call me sir. Aba, laki ng supermarket dito ah. Bili tayo ng drinks. Ako na po ang drinks. Sige na. Gutom na ako. Kuha na mga kami, Mike. So, paano? Mabiyahe pa tayo.
Sir, hatid ko na po kayo.
Central Hub yan. Develop na tong part ng Tarlac ah.
Sir, sagot ko na po ito.
Tingin mo sa akin. Cheap?
Sir, hindi po.
Joke lang.
Sir, pwede na po ako.
Thanks. Next time ulit. Miggy.
Next time! Woo!
Unilever understands that building relationships is at the core of brand interactions. Launched in late 2020, Ucoin is the company's unified digital rewards program for their consumers and customers across several channels.
Ucoin is a strategic digital program in Unilever Philippines. Aside from making our branded experiences more rewarding for consumers and customers, Ucoin also allows us to unlock a single view of data, all in an interconnected digital ecosystem that is slowly becoming cookieless.
With Ucoin, the company continuously reward people through a single digital currency for engaging with Unilever. It also democratizes how they choose their rewards. And with 1 million members and growing, Unilever is on the right track of driving business value through data.
Our ambition is to be the global leader in sustainable business, showing that our purpose-led, future-fit business model delivers superior performance built on meaningful partnerships with industry leaders and our consumers.
Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Presidential aspirants are set to formally begin their candidacies tomorrow on the first day of the campaign period for national posts. Tandems will hold proclamation rallies in various parts of the country. Joining us live is senior correspondent Anjo Alimario, who is hailing Vice President Leni Robredo in Naga. Anjo, what can we expect ahead of Robredo's campaign?
Kulay rosas ang bukas. Pia, that's the theme that the tandem of Leni and Kiko will carry in their 90-day campaign. Presidential aspirant Vice President Leni Robredo says this is what Filipinos can aspire for in an honest government, the kind of leadership that she has shown and has promised to continue if elected. Painting the social media in pink. And here in Naga, it's no exemption. Posters and tarps of Robredo are proudly displayed in buildings and establishments. Streets are adorned with pink banderitas. But that show of support is multiplied by the energy and overwhelming love of Bicolanos for Robredo. Robredo will try to make history as the first Bicolana president. That's why she chose to hold her proclamation rally together with running mate Senator Kiko Pangilinan and her Senate slate in her hometown.
Yung kulay rosas ang bukas, ito yung aspiration natin. Ito yung aspiration natin na kung gawin natin ang tama, kung magiging matapat tayo, makakaasa tayo ng pagbabago.
Survey frontrunner former Senator Bongbong Marcos will hold his kickoff at the Philippine Arena in Bulacan with Vice Presidential candidate Davao Mayor Sara Duterte. On the eve of their proclamation rally, they met with local officials of Bulacan and held motorcades which culminated with a town hall meeting in Malolos.
Natanggap po ang mensahe natin ng taong bayan dahil sa napakasimpleng dahilan. Tanggap na tanggap po ang mensahe natin ng pagkakaisa dahil ang Pilipino po ay nasa ugali na ang magkaisa. Ang Pilipino po ay mapagmahal. Hindi tayo pala away, hindi tayo naghahanap ng gulo. Ang ugali ng Pilipino ay makabayanihan. At pag may nakikitang naghihirap, tumutulong.
Senator Panfilo Lacson will be in his home province in Cavite on Tuesday, the second most vote-rich area with over 2 million voters. He will be with several senatorial aspirants under Partido Reforma, including former PNP Chief Guillermo Eleazar, actor Monsur del Rosario, and Dr. Mingita Badilla.
Outdoor yun sa amin, pero ang usapan namin, i-maintain na lang natin yung physical distancing. Sabihin na nilang medyo sparse yung crowd, pero at least may disiplina tayo. Yun ang lagi namin ginagawa, yung disiplina, napaka-importante sa panahon ng pandemya. Isipin mo, magra-rally ka, dikit-dikit, tapos magkakahawahan. Di nag-contribute ka pa sa problema.
Boxing legend Senator Manny Pacquiao will be with his fellow kababayans in General Santos, where he will have a caravan before his proclamation rally. He was busy on Monday distributing generator sets to NGOs in Cebu, where hundreds of residents are still without power following the onslaught of Typhoon Odette. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno's kickoff rally will be at the Cartilla ng Katipunan. He'll be joined by his running mate, Doc Willie Ong, and 3 senatoriables.
As much as possible, simple, modest proclamation. As much as possible. Talaga ako gano'n na hanggat maaari ako susunod tayo sa lituntunin kasi kung gusto natin mag-lead, di ba? Kailangan mapakita rin natin sa tao na tayo mismo nasunod sa sarili nating mga pinatutupad. Yung mga kalaban natin mga higante. Pero sinabi rin sa Biblia, si Goliath tinalo ni David. Ibig sabihin, sa Diyos, walang imposible.
And Labor leader Leody de Guzman will begin his journey on Tuesday from his hometown in Cainta and will bring his fight to Bantayog ng mga bayani. Vice President Leni Robredo says the biggest threat in her candidacy is disinformation. Social media, she explained, have been abused and weaponized. That's why she's calling for a united effort to fight fake news, or worse, she warns the elections would be won based on lies. Pia.
Anjo, is Robredo confident that she will win a majority of the votes in Bicol? Is there such a thing as the Bicol vote?
That's right, Pia. Robredo is confident that Bicol will give her a landslide win. In 2016, she explains 5 Bicolanos joined the race, but she still got 70% of the total votes in the region. And of course, this will be also a test for the so-called solid Leni Bicol in light of those reports of Camarines Sur mayors allegedly supporting her fiercest rival, Pia.
Anjo Alimario there reporting from Naga City in Camarines Sur. Now, the COMELEC may mount its first presidential and vice presidential debates next month. That is a week later than the original target of hosting the first COMELEC-sanctioned event this February. The poll body says it is in talks with media networks for a total of 6 national debates.
Ongoing po yan. Process po ngayon, meron po kaming guidelines na ipinapa-approve sa NBank. Hopefully this week ma-approve na po sila. At tuloy na po yan, although baka medyo maantala. Konti lang po yung sa first debate natin to give us more time po sa preparation.
COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez earlier said while the poll body cannot require candidates to show up, there will be empty podiums to represent those who will not join the debates. Now, 2 hopefuls eyeing a Senate comeback and a former defense secretary seeking a Senate seat. These aspirants joined the 4th round of CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum. And as Paulo Barcelon reports, they have many things in common.
The Philippines. Antique Representative Loren Legarda, former Senator Antonio Trillanes, and former Defense Chief Gilbert Chodoro graced the CNN Philippines Senatorial Forum Sunday night. All 3 have connections to the defense sector. Legarda is a Reserve Air Force Colonel, Trillanes, a retired Navy Lieutenant, and Teodoro, a former Defense Secretary. All 3 say they're open to a possible joint oil exploration with China if Beijing recognizes Manila's sovereignty in the contested waters.
I would rather err on the side of caution and let our Constitution work by letting all activities involving oil and mineral exploration activities in the West Philippine Sea to be subject to FTAA agreements as provided under the Constitution.
In any
joint exploration activities with China, the recognition of the arbitral tribunal ruling should be a primary requisite. Without that formal recognition, then nothing should proceed.
Trillanes, Legarda, and Teodoro also laid out their priority legislation should they get elected to the upper chamber. Teodoro is on his first run for the Senate, while Trillanes and Legarda are on comeback bids. Trillanes will aim for a post-COVID economic recovery program, while Teodoro hopes to scrutinize the national budget of the incoming administration. Legarda, meanwhile, will tackle environmental issues if she wins.
Ang ating pagsukat sa 10 environmental laws na ginawa po natin mula noong 1998 na sila'y mapondohan at sila'y striktong ma-implement. Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, Ecological Solid Waste Management Law, nandyan na po. Bakit hindi ini-implement na maigting?
Trillanes, Legarda, and Teodoro have another thing in common. At different times in their careers, they had sought higher office and lost. Legarda ran as the running mate of Fernando Poe Jr. in 2004. Trillanes for vice president in 2016, and Teodoro for the presidency in 2010. All three agree that aspirants, especially for the top 2 posts, should participate in the discussion of pertinent national issues.
The question, should aspirants for the country's top 2 positions commit to participate in debates and forums, yes or no? That is a yes, and a yes.
Paulo Barcelon, CNN Philippines.
Kingdom of Jesus Christ founder Pastor Apollo Quiboloy denies allegations against him, saying it comes with being an appointed son of God. Quiboloy, President Rodrigo Duterte's spiritual advisor, warned the public to stop, quote, persecuting him if they do not want to face more struggles amid the pandemic. He is on the most wanted list of the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation with 2 other people over an alleged labor trafficking scheme. Quiboloy is facing charges of sex trafficking, fraud and coercion, conspiracy, and bulk cash.
Ninyo, mahirap ang maging appointed son. Lahat ng kasalanan ibabato sa iyo. Sa ulad ng sinabi ng Matthew chapter 5, di ba? Blessed are you when men shall persecute you and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake.
I think this is designed to humiliate at to embarrass the pastor and the members of the kingdom. At ito po, this is a despicable act. The timing of the release, granted that this may have been done in the ordinary course by the FBI, the timing of the release is highly suspect.
Quiboloy's lawyer, Ferdinand Topacio, also claiming the charges against his client are indirect attacks on Duterte. The government has yet received an extradition request from the U.S. Still ahead, the PBA Governor's Cup returns this Friday. Find out which teams are going head-to-head. And speaking of comebacks, after 4 years, the kings of K-pop are dropping a new track. All details after the break.
Sure ka ba talaga dito?
Ano ka ba? Mabait si Papa. Pa! Si Pinky po.
Paano po, Mr. Fardo?
Please, call me sir. Aba, laki ng supermarket dito ah. Bili tayo ng drinks. Ako na po ang drinks. Sige na. Gutom na ako. Kuha na mo nga kami, Mike. Solve. Paano? Babiyahe pa tayo.
Sir, hatid ko na po kayo.
Central Hub yan. Develop na tong part ng Tarlac ah.
Sir, sagot ko na po ito.
Tingin mo sa akin. Cheap?
Sir, hindi po.
Joke lang.
Sir, pwede na po ako.
Thanks. Next time ulit. Miggy.
That's fun! Woo!
back to CNN Philippines as the PBA Governors Cup finally returns. Which teams will we see first on the hard court? Here's a look at this Friday's games. It'll be the Meralco Bolts against the NLEX Road Warriors at 3 p.m. and Magnolia Hotshots versus reigning champions TNT Tropang Giga at 6 p.m. PBA games were postponed early last month because of rising COVID-19 cases. And this athlete named the Philippine Sports Association Athlete of the Year for the third time. The PSA praised Heidelin Diaz's historic win in 2021 when she took home the country's first Olympic gold. Diaz also received the PSA award in 2016 after bagging a silver at the Rio de Janeiro Olympics and in 2018 when she won gold at the Asian Games in Indonesia. Now, calling all K-drama fans my name, and nevertheless star Han So-hee is now the face of BYS Philippines. The Korean star also worked with a makeup brand for a line of lipsticks or lip nectar named after flowers. The K-drama star's next romance drama, Soundtrack #1, streams on Disney Plus next month. Moving on to highly anticipated release in K-pop, Big Bang is dropping new music 4 years since its last single, Flower Road. The group's agency said a new song will come out in spring or early this year and that they are preparing to shoot a music video. But only 3 members will work on the comeback, with T.O.P. leaving the group after 16 years. And that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pio Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Kini ang simbianan sa RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKS. DXKS 1080. Ang inyong Radio Ronda. 5,000 watts nagsimbiya sa ikatulong andana sa UFCO Lim Building, Borromeo Street, Dakbayan sa Surigao. RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKS 1080, ang inyong Radio Ronda.
Over 6 million Filipinos have diabetes, and this number only continues to grow. But those living with the condition can go on to live long and healthy lives. Managing the disease and preventing its complications are key. Among these complications is diabetic neuropathy or nerve damage. This can happen when your blood sugar remains high for a long period of time. The good news is there are ways to slow down the progress of diabetic neuropathy or prevent it altogether. Today on the program, we'll talk more about the complications, its types, risk factors, as well as how best to manage it. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome to MedTalk Health Talk right here on CNN Philippines. One of the most common complications of diabetes is diabetic neuropathy or nerve damage. How can those living with diabetes prevent this health problem? I'd like to welcome our guests for today. With us is Dr. Jennifer Manzano. She's a neurologist and the head of the Brain Institute of Asian Hospital and Medical Center. Also with us is Dr. Mia Fojas, who is the immediate past president of the Philippine Society of Endocrinology and Metabolism. Diabetes is actually a tricky disease. It can lead to a number of complications, which can then set off a host of other diseases. I'll start the conversation with Dr. Mia. Let's remind our viewers again kung bakit napaka-importante na alam ng mga Filipinos kung ano ang diabetes and what are some of the common complications that go about of hindi pag-control nito.
Two things yun, either enough insulin pero hindi effective or kulang. So, ganyan ang nangyayari. So, tumataas ang sugar, hindi na u-utilize ng katawan. In the meantime, andyan siya sa bloodstream natin, causing damage sa iba't ibang organ systems. Isa na doon would be the neurologic, sa ating mga nerve damage. Pwede rin sa kidneys, isa sa mga common. Pwedeng sa magkaroon din komplikasyon sa puso at iba't ibang pang organ systems.
Explain to our viewers kung ano ang diabetic neuropathy at Ano ang nagiging implication nito sa mga diabetics?
Diabetic neuropathy just means that there is nerve damage because of diabetes. And this happens when the very high blood sugar affects the blood vessels that supply the nerve, and also affects the coating of the nerve itself. So, ang nerve kasi natin, no, para siyang kawad ng kuryente. Merong coating, yung nerve. And around that coating also are the blood vessels that supply the nerve. So, syempre, lahat ng bagay sa katawan natin may blood supply. So, diabetes affects the blood supply to the nerve and also damages the nerves themselves. And this damage leads to diabetic neuropathy.
Kapag ang nerve ng isang tao ay na-damage because of diabetic neuropathy, pwede bang gumaling ito? Pwede bang bumalik sa dati, or once it's damaged, yun na yun?
It depends on what kind of diabetic neuropathy we have. Most commonly, if you have diabetic neuropathy, hindi na siya bumabalik sa dati. That's why it's very important to prevent it as a complication or to delay the onset of diabetic neuropathy. There is one kind of diabetic neuropathy, what we call proximal neuropathy, that usually improves over time.
Diabetic neuropathy, this can cause some numbness and even painful ulcers in your nerves, and if left untreated, it can even lead sa pagkawala ng limb na yun or ang limb amputation. Lahat ba ng mga diabetics, type 1 or type 2, will progress or has eventually the potential to progress to have these complications kapag hindi naagapan or hindi na-treat ang kanilang blood sugar?
You have to really be aggressive with the treatment sa pasyente at the onset. Kasi pag ang mga sugar control nila laging mataas, it's not just yung yung laging mataas, it's also yung time na taas baba yung blood sugar. It also damages kasi the nerves. So there's a certain point in time na pwede pang ma-reverse, similar to kidney problems, no? May tinatawag na microalbuminuria, no? Nare-reverse pa siya. Pero pag sa neuropathy, pwede pa rin siyang ma-reverse. Pero kung sobrang far gone na ang daming ng damages na nangyari, posible nang hindi bumalik. Mas common yung earlier onset ng neuropathy sa mga type 1 diabetic. Pero sa mga type 2, humahabol na rin po tayo. Dumadami na rin ang nagkaka-neuropathy ngayon, pero hindi nila agad nare-recognize.
Para sa mga viewers natin na hindi madalas magpa-check ng blood sugar nila, especially for type 2 diabetes, what are some of the early signs ng diabetes that our viewers should be wary about?
Isa sa mga una naming tinatanong, meron po ba kayong nararamdaman ng pagmamanhid ng mga daliri at paa? Kasi ito, yung peripheral neuropathy, yung tinatawag na glove and stocking na simptomas na kuminsan pagmamanhid, kuminsan merong pangangate, parang may tumutusok-tusok, no? Wala namang kumakagat na mga insekto, pero parang may makati lagi sa legs, sa likod, madalas ganoon. O kaya kasi hindi lang simpleng pagmamanhid. So pangangate, parang kasing nagfa-fire yung neuron, yung nerve, tapos hindi na nakokontrol. Lalo na yung sa ibang mga pasyente, no? Every time they eat, after eating, parang yun ang nararamdaman nila, either nagmamanhid, pinapawisan yung mga legs or mga extremities or yung buong katawan, pero hindi naman din sila gutom. Yun, yung isa sa mga simptomas ng neuropathy pag tumataas lalo yung sugar. Sa early pa lang yun, ha? Early na parang, oops, tumataas ang sugar ko, makati. Parang gano'n.
Dr. Jen, are there any other diseases that our viewers should be aware about that does also cause nerve damage?
Anything that affects the metabolism of the nerve will cause nerve damage. Nerve damage actually pwedeng mangyari kung halimbawa merong compression, so kung minsan halimbawa nalasing or napagod tapos hinang mo yung kamay mo sa chair, pwedeng magkaroon ng nerve damage. It's called compression neuropathy. Pero may mga toxic substances din that can cause nerve damage. So anything, in general, anything in excess can cause nerve damage. Kung mababa ang vitamin B mo, pwedeng mag-cause ng nerve damage. Ganun din kapag mataas ang vitamin B. So there are many things that can contribute to nerve damage and therefore neuropathy.
Okay, that is why early detection and preventive measures can really help save lives. When we return, we'll talk about how to recognize diabetic neuropathy. We'll go through some of the symptoms and the risk factors of the complication. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk, your partner in healthcare.
Protektahi ang imong mga mata batok sa delikado ug makadaot nga ultraviolet nga silaw sa adlaw ug uban pa. Pinaagi sa pagsulob og eksakto nga prescription sa antiyohos o antipara. Likay ang mga simptomas sama sa hanap nga pananaw sa layo o duol nga basahon, sakit sa ulo ug uban pa nga makaapekto sa atong kahimsog nga ang hinungdan depekto sa atong mga mata. Alang sa kumpleto nga primary eye care, contact lenses, fashion eyewear, computer eyeglasses, sunglasses, accessories ug uban pa, adto kita sa AG Buñuel Optical Clinic. Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic nagpahinumdum kanato nga ang kahimsog sa atong mga mata usa ka prioridad nga angay ipa-check up kausa matag tuig aron pagsiguro nga luwas kita sa piligrong mga sakit. Pinagi sa lisensyado og qualified optometrists nga maoy mo prescribe sa eksaktong kagamitan ug kung primary eye care ang pagahisgutan. Duaw lang silang buhatan sa 3636 sa Nicolas Street, Surigao City ug adunay ilang extension office sa Aurelianida Street, Cantilan, Surigao del Sur. Ayaw kalimti higala. AG Buñuel Optical Clinic.
Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic doon na branch dito sa lungsod sa Dapa sa may Lupis Haina Street, Poblasyon Dapa, Surigao del Norte.
Ang AG Buñuel Optical Clinic dinhi sa siyudad ng Surigao no transfer na sa bag-ong location sa Nicolas Street Ragyahapon, tapad sa Garcia Hotel at bang sa Unicity. Ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated na sa ilang bagong location sa Dalan, Burgos ning atong syudad. Mahimo niyong tawagan sa telephone number 231-7478 or 826-3663. Mga produkto nga inyong mapalit, genuine, Makita Power Tools sama sa planer, drill, grinder, Triton Paints, construction supplies, angle bars, flat bars, GI pipes, automotive spare parts, Firefly electrical devices sama sa switches, bulbs ug outlets. Adto ang Riverside Parts Master Incorporated sa ilang bagong pwesto sa Dalan, Burgos ning syudad. Makahangyo ka o makabarato pagyod diha sa Riverside Parts Master Incorporated.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao, member kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines, where caring is our calling. Dr. Jen, walk us through some of the different types of complications ng diabetic neuropathy.
By far, there are 4 classes of diabetic neuropathy. The most common is the symmetric diffuse neuropathy. So, ibig sabihin, almost all the nerves are affected, especially the ones that are seen in the feet and in the hand. There is also what we call autonomic neuropathy, which usually presents like bloatedness or decreased emptying time sa stomach. Ito yung mga patients na minsan sabihin nila, Doktora, parang bloated ang pakiramdam ko palagi. O kaya parang bumabalik yung kinain ko, Doktora. There is what we call mononeuropathy. Ibig sabihin isang nerve lang. For some reason, may carpal tunnel syndrome or yung nerve that is supplying sensation and movement to your hand is affected. There is also what we call proximal neuropathy, where parang masakit yung buong hip ng patient, buong leg niya. Pagkatapos, mamaya makikita mo pumapayat na yung muscle. So there's muscle wasting and the patient has difficulty standing up from sitting or even climbing up and down the stairs. So it can present in a myriad of ways. So it's very important that the patients with diabetes really get in touch with their doctors.
Now, Dr. Jen, meron bang sequence ng mga simptomas sa isang taong nagkakaroon na ng diabetic neuropathy? Meron bang pain muna bago magmanhid? Is there a process na our viewers can chime in on?
Minsan parang kumakati lang yung kanilang mga kamay at minsan parang namamanhid na hindi nila ma-explain. And minsan sasabihin nila, pagkakain nila parang makati o kaya parang manhid. Now, as the nerves get damaged, doon na nagkakaroon ng almost permanent numbness o kaya loss of balance, no? Kasi yung balance natin is also a function of how well our feet parang feels the ground, no? So, later on, habang lumalala yung kanilang neuropathy, nagkakaroon na ng mas permanent at mas malalang damage. Even pain, na kuminsan sobrang hawakan mo lang sila, sobrang painful sa kanila. Minsan yung bedsheet lang, akala mo parang talagang nahiwa yung skin nila, no? Or sometimes, even if walang nag-touch sa kanila, no, even with no stimulation, masakit talaga yung kanilang nerves, yung kanilang extremities. Also, sometimes wala naman talagang nararamdaman. Kaya minsan may sugat na, hindi pa rin nila nararamdaman. So it's very important that patients with diabetes always keep on checking their feet kasi minsan may sugat na tapos hindi nila alam, and dito nagkakaroon ng what we call diabetic foot.
The notion that sticks in their head is pwede kang mawalan ng limb. Pwedeng maputol ang paa, pwedeng maputol ang daliri sa paa because of diabetes. Madalas ba ito mangyari kapag hindi naagapan ng diabetes? Kailan umaabot sa puntong iyon, Dr. Mia?
Yung notion na yan na baka maputulan ng paa, no? Both is may positive effect siya at saka may negative effect doon sa mga iba't ibang pasyente namin sa konseptong yun. Kasi yung iba, sinasabi nila, okay pa blood sugar ko kasi gumagaling pa yung sugat ko. So, in the end, late sila magkokonsulta kasi gumagaling pa yung sugat niya. When in fact, hindi naman yun yung idea doon. So, gumagaling nga pero improper ang healing ng wound. So, sa ilalim noon, parang hindi pa healed. So, ang pangit ng scarring. That's one of the signs sa pangit ang sugar nila. Yung sa positive effect na nung sa notion na yung baka maputulan. So, natatakot sila kagad. So, good na nagpapakonsulta. Noon, ang dami po talagang napuputulan dahil lang sa poor sugar control at hindi na alagaan ng sugat. Mali-mali po yung paglinis or hindi na linisan. Yung iba, oo nga pala, yung sa diabetic neuropathy, no? Yung iba kasi, sabi wala na sila masyadong maramdaman sa paa. So, kuminsan, nilulublob nila sa sobrang init na tubig. May mga pasyente kami dati na nilagyan nila ng mainit na oil. Kaya nagkaroon ng paltos. So, medyo common yan noon. So, ngayon medyo hindi kasi wala masyadong admission ng DM foot, no? Pero madalas nangyayari yan noon na mali-mali yung pag-treat sa neuropathy at saka kung ano-ano na ginagawa sa mga paa para makaramdam.
What is your advice para sa mga viewers natin who may have these symptoms? Saan sila pwedeng magpa-check? Is it overacting sa kanila na magpa-check kagad if they just feel something that they think may be a neuropathy?
If you know that you have diabetes and you have these symptoms, you have to tell your endocrinologist. Pero kung hindi mo pa alam na ikaw ay may diabetes, no, you can always consult neurologist or actually any doctor should be able to elicit these symptoms. Basta maganda ang pagkuha ng history, maganda yung kwento ng patient. Basta ang important, they have to consult.
Dr. Mia, ano ba mga risk factors natin na common sa mga Filipinos when it comes to diabetes?
Lahat halos tayo may relative na diabetes. First degree relative with diabetes is a risk factor. Of course, the history of hypertension, smoking, meron yan. It's lifestyle risk factors. And as for yung ating environment, marami, no? Maraming exposure sa atin and also our culture. Diabetogenic ang culture ng mga Pilipino.
Okay.
Kaya marami talaga kaya tumataas ang diabetes sa atin. So we have to change that culture, which is very difficult. So, we have to start now sa mga parents siguro para sa future ng mga bata, malesen.
Even if you're at risk of diabetic neuropathy, there are many things that you can do to lower the risk of the disease. When we return, we'll talk about these preventive measures. Your health is our mission here on MedTalk Health Talk. We'll be right back.
Maayong balita sa tanan sa atong panginahanglan sa panimalay, mga gamit, ingon man mga dekorasyon, pwede na natong mapalit diha sa Wellington Bazaar. Anausab sa Wellington Bazaar ang mga bestidahon, karsunison, plain t-shirt, plastic chair, floor mat, mantel, banig, folding bed, habol, mosketero, trapal, lideret, basketball, stuffed toys ug mga dulaan sa bata. Ang Wellington Bazaar ana magalagad kanato sa Dalan Kaimo ning Dakbayan sa Surigao. Wellington Bazaar, gikan sa mga kawani ug tigdumala sa Wellington Bazaar. Mayong adlaw alang kaninyo. Wellington Bazaar, sukyon ta sa kanunay.
Ay, kasakit yun sa ako ang mga mata. Uy, labad pagyud kay ako ang ulo. Murag kog malipong ba? Unya, murag limtanon pagyud ko. Unsaon man ni, uy.
Naanag yun ay kay problema, miss. Ha? Tanawa ko, nagsakay ka ng tricycle. Wala kay suot bra. Para masolba na imo problema. Pag inuman ni, Lutein Plus.
Unsa? Lutein Plus? Asa man na nimo gikan?
Ako man ninadunggan sa radyo, miss. Mao kagapalit ko naan. Pagpagandam ba?
Sige, salamat kayo ha. Magpalit dayon ko og Lutein Plus.
RPN Regional AM radio stations nationwide welcomes CNN Philippines, a first on radio. To bring you the latest news you can use, news you can trust. Listen to Newsnight, weekdays 6 p.m.
We now go above and beyond the headlines.
Followed by Med Talk, Health Talk.
We'll talk about how to keep ourselves healthy during the pandemic.
Politics as usual.
Our guests for tonight, two political science professors.
Up close and more. Catch CNN Philippines Hour in all RPN AM radio stations. Weekdays, 6 to 7 p.m.
RPN Radio Philippines Network. Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao. Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and this is Med Talk Health Talk, your partner in healthcare. Nerve damage can occur if you have diabetes, and this can cause numbness and pain in your legs as well as your feet. And it can even cause damage in your digestive system. While some only experience mild symptoms, for others, it can be painful as well as disabling. And when it comes to diabetic neuropathy, the best cure is prevention. Dr. Mia, what are some of the best practices to prevent diabetes and its complications?
Avoid all the sweets. Sugars are sugar is the most addicting thing nowadays. So stay away from it. So prevention is better than cure. But once it's there, once you have type 2 diabetes, you can prevent. There is such a thing called remission. So you can control it by, first, of course, proper nutrition, exercises, of course, consult your doctors and take your medication as advised.
Dr. Jen, when it comes to diabetic neuropathy, are there any tips or any advice to help prevent this?
The length of time that you have been diabetic is very important in the onset of diabetic neuropathy. So sometimes, it's even if controlled ang diabetes mo, pwede ka pa rin magkaroon ng neuropathy kung matagal ka nang may diabetes. For example, kung 25 years ka nang may diabetes, talagang pwede kang magkaroon ng neuropathy even if controlled ang diabetes mo. What is important is to delay the progression of the neuropathy or delay its onset. Other factors can also contribute to poor blood supply to the nerves, such as hypertension and high cholesterol levels. So if you are diabetic, and you have to make sure that your cholesterol levels are also controlled, and malaki na naman ang role ng endocrinologist natin dito. And also, if you are diabetic, you have to make sure that your blood pressure is also controlled. Most studies will say that dapat ang blood pressure mo should be less than 130/85 if you have diabetes.
Anong magandang maintenance practice para magandang nerve function sa ating katawan?
Number one, you have to have a healthy diet. And so healthy diet means you eat less of the sugar, less of the fat, and more of the greens. You have to have at least 30 to 45 minutes of moderate intensity exercise every day. Kailangan adequate ang sleep natin at dapat enough ang pag-inom ng water. Also, you have to avoid some of the vices that will definitely have an impact or destroy your nerves like nicotine. No? So you have to avoid smoking. If you are a smoker, please quit. And if you are not yet smoking, please don't pick up the habit. And alcohol intake, excessive alcohol intake is actually very toxic to the nerves.
Dr. Mia, do you have anything to add with regards to tips on how prevent diabetic neuropathy or prevent diabetes in general?
For the prevention of DM neuropathy, what is key is good glucose control, good cholesterol control, and good control of hypertension. So if you have all of those, take your medicines. Don't be scared. Kasi ngayon, mas natatakot sila sa gamot kesa sa complication for some reason, no? Kasi there are a lot of misconceptions like sa social media na kung ano-anong lumalabas na complication or adverse reactions from the medications themselves. But you'd better trust your doctor, kaya ka kumukonsulta sa doktor mo. Don't waste your time there kung hindi mo naman isusundan.
Thank you very much, neurologist Dr. Jennifer Manzano and endocrinologist Dr. Mia Fojas, for sharing with us your valuable insights. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and thank you for watching Med Talk Health Talk. We'll see you again next time.
RPN Radio Philippines Network. Radyo Ronda DXKS Surigao. Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Ang atong lawas ang ayang ampingan ng pabaskugon. Mao ka lang ang SED Marketing. Magadalit ka na ito nining pinasahing tulumanon. Aniya na karon ang Takna sa Kahimso. Takna sa Kahimso. Pinasikaran kini sa Kogon Herbal Capsule. Takna sa Kahimso.
Higala, kumusta mayang adlaw ka natong tanan? Welcome din sa atong